Today we'll be doing a really fun and easy and pretty quick tutorial on drawing Disney princess eyes. Hi, I'm Diana, the artist behind My McDoodles. Welcome to my channel. For this tutorial, we'll be using these eye pattern guides that you can get for free over on my website in the Doodle Squad library. If you're not already a member, you can head over to dianamcdermott.com/freebies and sign up for my Doodle Squad, where there's a lot of extensive Procreate tools and palettes and things like this over in the library that is available to you completely for free. The other brushes that I will be using in this tutorial are the sketching pencils that come free with the Procreate app. I really like this one here, this Derwent, or however you say that, and also this Bonobo chalk. You can use these guides to create lots of different types of princess eyes. I am going to be doing black and white with the pencils that I previously mentioned, but you could certainly use these guides to create any type of eye you would like. It just helps you align everything so that you don't have to think about that part and you can just have fun coloring it or sketching it. I like to make mine a little bit different with things like these stars in the middle and stuff like that, but you really could do it however your style is and whatever you like. The first brush I'll be using is this one that has the eye, the eyebrow, and the lower lashes. You can use the eye shape without the iris or any of these that you wish, but I thought it would be easiest just to go with this one that includes almost everything. So I just make a stamp and then you can resize it to whatever size you need. I'd like to make mine fairly large on the canvas, and then just take the opacity down a little bit. And in a new layer, you could add the iris pattern if you want to, and that will give you a quick guide there on how to color that in. So something like that, and you could keep that in its own layer or you could flatten it down. So those are my guides. I'm not going to be using those for my final drawing. That's just so I know kind of where to sketch things in. So in a new layer on top of those, I will draw in my eye, and I'm going to use that sketching pencil that I mentioned and then just sketch it in. I've sketched in my eye, and then for the iris, you could either flatten this right into your sketch or you can make it have some of that texture. So if I wanted to preserve the texture, I would just change this layer here with that iris guide to white. So I can turn on alpha lock either by swiping 2 fingers to the right or tapping on that layer and pressing alpha lock in the menu here. And then make sure that the color is white that you chose, and then just press fill layer. And right now you can't see it because the background's white, but maybe that's a little easier. And then in this layer over top, I'm going to go back to the black and make sure I have my sketching pencil selected and just kind of scribble over top. And then clip that down. And now you have that texture that preserved, and you don't have to redraw that iris pattern if you don't want to. You can also do the same thing if you're using color you could alpha lock the iris layer and then just color over top of it or use a clipping mask. And I'm happy with that, so I'll just merge that down. And now I don't have to go back in and redraw that. So I'll add a little more detail here. I don't really need this guide anymore, but I'll just keep it, but turn it off. And I'd also like to merge down these 2 layers here, so my sketch is all in one layer there. So since this is just kind of a messy, it's supposed to look like a pencil sketch, I'm just gonna keep going with this here. But if you wanted it to be like really clean and you're using something like the monoline brush or something that's like really clean edges, then you could use like your version of the sketch that you made over top of the guides, and just turn the opacity down and set it to multiply and then make a layer underneath. And then you could do your color blocking there so that you have your sketch guide like in your own style or your own drawing. And that way it kind of looks more like your spin on it rather than my stamp. And then you could do your color underneath. But I want mine to be just like this sketchy pencil style. So I'm just going to do it all in this sketch layer that I've already made and just add in more details and use the same textured brush, this Derwent, as my smudge tool. And I'll also use white pencil to add in like highlights and stuff in that same brush. I'm going to use the same brush the whole time with a little bit of this bonobo chalk at the end. So I'll speed up the video now and just add in my details so you can kind of see how I go about it. And then I'll meet you back here. So I've got like a basic, kind of like smudgy pencil layer in here. And then I will add more layers on the top, and just work in layers and flatten it down as I go. I want to preserve a lot of texture. And when you're using the smudge tool, it does smudge a lot of it out. Even when you use the smudge tool as the pencil, you could always try using it as the chalk. And using that as your smudge tool as well. I like both of those a lot when I'm doing like pencil drawings on my iPad. So I will probably use a little bit of that in here too, and just work in layers so I can preserve the texture. You can also use your eraser tool as your pencil or the chalk and just like erase little bits back out. And that will help like put the texture back in. So I do that a little bit throughout as well. And I'll just keep working in layers here. So every time I make a new layer, I'll add in like the shading. If I like it, I'm going to flatten it down. And also don't forget to add shading in the eye. So you don't want your eye to be like bright white. Eyes are not bright white. I mean, I guess like in Disney movies they are, but a lot of times even then they'll add like a little bit of shading. So make sure you don't forget to add like shading like under like the eyelashes and then in the sides here. And I think that really helps it stand out, especially like under the eyelashes, because that is something that's like protruding. It's not flat against the eye, so that will add a little bit of dimension and up here in this crease. And so I just go through and add little touches like that. But I still want to keep it like kind of like cartoony and loose, not like this is not a realistic eye. So I am going to be drawing it a little bit differently than if I was trying to make this look real. You just don't want to get too hung up on like all the shadows and stuff, but you'll see like what's a good balance for yours and like your art style. So I go through, I add those, and then I kind of like smudge things out as I go. Just with like a light touch. You don't have to do like a whole ton of smudging, but I do feel like it goes a long way when you're doing like a pencil sketch. Most of my time is spent with like the smudge tool. Like I layer on the pencil and then go back in and smudge it. And it really makes a big difference, especially if you're doing like realistic stuff, which again, this isn't. One more tip, sometimes this pencil is not big enough. Like it only gets so big before you run out of, like it's only going to get that big. So I like to duplicate them sometimes and make them bigger. So I made a bigger one too. so that I can get more area and it can get larger. And the way you would do that is you just duplicate the original brush. You can change it in the original brush, but I don't really like to do that. If you did change it and you need to go back, you can reset the brush there. Well, this doesn't have a reset point because it's my duplicate, but on the original Procreate one, it would say reset the brush. And you just click it and it goes back to like the default settings. But this is the duplicate, so the way I would make it be able to get larger is I go in here to the properties and then just increase the maximum size here, and that will help you out when you need to cover a larger area. So I do that a lot of times with the brushes that are included free with the app. Just kind of like add your own little tweaks to them to make it work for you, and that really helps a lot. So I already have that one. I'm going to delete it back out so I don't get confused. I'm just going to go through and do what I mentioned in like new layers. Every time I'm happy with the layer, I'm just going to kind of like merge it down. It keeps things a little bit organized and easier for me to keep track of, especially at the end when you want to add in like, I don't know, like highlights and stuff and like smudge those out. You want to make sure all your layers are kind of smudging together to give it like a nice authentic look, like it's really a pencil drawing and not just like one layer's smudging and the other ones aren't. So I like to like smudge them, blend them, and then flatten it down and keep adding more and more depth and like texture. So I'll speed up the video again and just kind of go through and add in a little more and then meet you back here. Okay, so here's what I have. So I went through and I just added more shading like in the eye here and then a lot in the iris and kind of just put a lot of variation in there and smudged it a little bit. And then I went back in with a white pencil and you can see what a big difference it makes when you do that. So this is with the white and without. And you can just add like little highlights here and there, especially like in the eye to make it look 3D and like rounded. If you just add a little bit of the highlights, like where the eye would be wet and like be rounded. So I do it over the edges so it doesn't look like it's just like this solid iris. I like to add it on the edges of the iris, like over into the white and on the sides, just to kind of give it like that, like convex, whatever, curve. And then a highlight like in here. And you can kind of like play around with it as you go and see like where it looks good to you. And just like a little bit up in the eyebrow area here, like on the brow bone here. And it just adds a little bit of dimension and I feel like it makes it look a little bit, um, just more interesting and stuff. And then these little like twinkles in the eyes. Of course, you don't have to add that, but I like to make it just like a little bit different. So that is what I am going to use for my final piece. I'd love to see yours. And if you would like to do a project like this together in color, you can let me know in the comments below and maybe we'll do a color Disney eye next time. Obviously, this isn't like a perfect Disney eye. I'm not an illustrator for Disney, but this is my take on the Disney eye and I have fun doing it like this. So I hope that you had fun with this too. So if you made this project and you enjoyed it, be sure to like this video. And then if you share your project, you could tag me on Instagram at MyMcDoodles because I would love to see what you came up with. Be sure to head on over to my Doodle Squad to join if you haven't already. Don't forget to subscribe before you go so you don't miss out on the next fun tutorial. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.